Did you know that 80% of marketers find influencer marketing effective? Now, if you've clicked on this video, I'm willing to bet that you already know how effective influencer marketing can be. So don't worry, you're in the right place, because in today's video, I'm going to be sharing my top 5 ways to find the best influencers to help you grow your business. This video is very kindly sponsored by Modash. More on them later. Okay, so the first way for you to find influencers for your business is a good old-fashioned manual search, right? So I want to start off with this one because this is usually the one that people think about first. And I'm going to share some tips and tricks, what's going to help you do this in the best way possible. So when I say a manual search, I'm referring to using the tools already at your disposal, such as Google or maybe Instagram or TikTok, depending on what social media platform you're on. You can use those tools to find some really great influencers, but only if you're using those tools in the right way. So the first thing you're going to want to do is get really clear on who you want to work with, and then you want to identify some keywords, what's going to help you find those people that you want to work with. So let's say you're in the fitness industry. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that if you're in the fitness industry, you probably want to find fitness influencers, or at the very least, you want to find influencers who have an audience of people who are interested in fitness, right? That's what you're looking for. So if that's the case, I want you to write down a few different keywords that you can use to search on Instagram or Google, etc., that will help you find influencers who are in the fitness industry. So most of the time, you want to start off with something really obvious like fitness creator, fitness influencer, nutrition coach. Those are the kind of terms that you're going to be looking for. These are really great keywords to help you search for these influencers online. Now, if you start off with Google, and if you're in a really popular industry, what you'll often find is like listicles and articles from media companies who have pulled together their favorite creators within a space. These are super useful to help you get started, but I don't want you to rely on articles like this, because more often than not, these articles focus on influencers who are absolutely huge in their space. And whilst those are great, and if you have the budget to work with them, then definitely go ahead and do so. It does mean that you might end up missing out on a lot of smaller influencers who have a really engaged audience who could also do amazing things for your brand. Now, I'm going to leave you with a pro tip before we move on to the next way for you to find influencers for your brand. And this pro tip is to do with Instagram. So as I mentioned before, you can actually use these keywords that you've just written down. You can use these to search for influencers on social media platforms such as Instagram. Now, the thing to note about Instagram is it has become quite a search-based platform recently, which means it's a lot easier to find creators when you type in the right keywords into the Instagram search bar. Don't worry, I'll put a screen recording on the screen so you can see what I'm talking about. The pro tip comes in here when you click on this icon that I've just circled on the screen. Now, this icon is super important because when you click on it, Instagram is going to show you a bunch of other accounts or creators or influencers who are similar to the account that you're looking at. This means that you could find one influencer who is amazing and perfect for your brand. And by clicking on that button, you might be able to find 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 additional influencers who are just as perfect for your brand just by using that Instagram feature. So that is a pro tip from me. Okay, so let's move on to the second way that you can find influencers for your brand. This is a really exciting one because using this tool that I'm about to introduce to you, you can actually find every single influencer on earth in relation to your brand, and you can do it in a really seamless and a really intuitive way. So the platform that you're going to want to use in order to do this is Modash, who I mentioned are the sponsors of today's video. Now, I already mentioned to you that when you use Modash, you can actually get access to every single creator or influencer on earth, which is like a wild concept to think about. Now, this is super important because it means you can review and assess all forms of creators and influencers, all the way from nano or micro creators who often have super engaged audiences, all the way up to like mega celebrities. You can also review creators from small cities who are often overlooked, all the way from like the most influencer dense cities in the world. So if you're really serious about growing your brand through influencer and creator marketing, then you really want to be using Modash to help you do that. The important thing to know about Modash is that it's not an opt-in network, which means that it's able to list every single creator, not just the creators who have opted into their network and therefore they verified and authenticated. You can literally get access to every single creator, regardless of whether or not they already have a relationship with Modash. And they do this by crawling through public information and by social media accounts. And it's really similar to what Google does when it's trying to figure out what articles to show you when you search for different terms on Google. This basically means that you'll be able to review tons of creators, including a lot of creators who you wouldn't normally see on your standard marketplaces. In addition to this, you can actually get data on these creators without having to reach out to them them or brief them in any way. So there's actually data available using the Modash tool, which will help you analyze the different creators that you want to work with. Another feature that you're going to find super, super useful on Modash is how it uses hashtags versus keywords in bios when it's trying to search for different creators. So this is especially important for those of you who are in a specific niche, which I'm willing to guess is a lot of you guys, right? So you guys watching right now, you probably sell a specific product or service, which means that you need a creator who is in a specific niche to make sure that it's super aligned with you and your brand. Now, Modash allows for you to search for these creators using both hashtags and keywords. Now, the difference between the two is that if you search for hashtags, you're probably going to get a lot more creators who have used that hashtag, but the creators might be slightly less relevant and maybe less specific. Whereas if you search for keywords, you're going to get fewer creators who appear under that search, but they're going to be a lot more aligned and a lot more specific to that keyword. So having the ability to balance both is super important because it increases the chances of you finding the right creator for your product or your brand. So I'm going to put a quick demo on the screen so you can actually get a sneak peek into what Modash looks like. So as you can see, you can get really specific in regards to the type of influencer that you want when you're using the search function. So anything from their geographical location all the way through to their engagement rate or their growth rate. So the example that I'm showing you right now is specifically for Instagram, but as you can see, you can also run a similar search for other platforms such as YouTube and TikTok. Now, my final tip when it comes to Modash is to take a look at the quick tip section when you first sign up, because it's going to allow you to get familiar with how the platform works super quickly so that you can get started and start finding these amazing creators and influencers to help you grow your brand as soon as possible. So if you want to check out Modash, which I'm willing to bet that you do, be sure to head to the link in my description to find out more. Okay, so another way for you to find influencers and creators to help you grow your brand or your business is to create your own ambassador program. So if you're not familiar with what these are, it's essentially when a brand sets up a program which allows different influencers and creators to apply to be part of the program. And as a result of that, they get access to a bunch of different benefits. For example, a brand might allow a creator to join their ambassador program, and in return for that, the creator gets a discount off of their clothing or their products. They might get invited to specific events. They might get an affiliate code, etc. Right? This is a super interesting tactic because it basically encourages the influencers and creators out there to come to you rather than you coming to them or you trying to find them. Now, there are pros and cons to this because on the one hand, it might seem easier, right? People coming to you might seem easier than you going to them, but it does take some time and effort to actually set up an ambassador program from like the tech backend side to how you actually manage those ambassadors and influencers anyway. So it's not necessarily an easier route. In addition to this, when you are encouraging influencers and creators to come to you and you're not coming to them, it's a lot harder for you to be specific with the creators who you're working with because you don't have control as to who you're reaching out to, right? Now, the thing to note about this tactic is that if you're going to do it, there's some mistakes that I'm going to need you to avoid, right? If you are going to host an ambassador program, you need to make sure that what you're offering your ambassadors is actually super valuable if you want to get a good caliber of creators and influencers applying to your program. So a common mistake that I see a lot of brands do is they offer people discounts off their products and services. Now, a lot of influencers and creators who truly know their value will not apply to that program because they know that they should be getting products at least for free. And if anything, they should be getting paid to share these products to their audience. So just think about the type of influencer or creator you want to attract, because the ones who've been in this game for a while and they know the type of results they can get for their brand, they are less likely to apply to a program which doesn't really offer them anything in return. Okay, so the next way that you can get influencers and creators for your brand is to use an influencer marketing agency. Now, I've got to just start off by being really clear about the different types of agencies within this space because people often get quite confused. There are talent management agencies and there are influencer marketing agencies. Talent management agencies manage the talent and they get paid by the talent. The talent in this case are influencers and creators. Influencer marketing agencies work for the brand and are paid by the brand. Okay, this is a really important distinction because they both have different priorities. The talent management agencies are focused on looking after their talent and getting good deals for their talent. The influencer marketing agencies are focused on creating great campaigns for their clients who are the brands. So it's different. We're going to talk about these ones, right? The influencer marketing agencies, because if you work with the right agency, some magical things can happen. And I'm being biased here because I used to work for partnerships agencies, so I understand this space, but I've seen some incredible campaigns being created by influencer marketing agencies. The reason why is because they are experts in this field. So they have a lot of relationships with influencers directly, or they have relationships with talent management agencies, which give them access to these influencers. They will do the job of finding the best influencers or creators for your brand based on your objectives. They will then present these influencers to you. They'll come up with a brief for the content that they should be creating. They'll manage all the content. They'll feed back on the content. They take a lot off of your plate. And if you find a good influencer marketing agency, the output is usually pretty high standard as well. The downside though is that they're not cheap. Of course they're not. Think about all the things that I've just said they could do for you. Like there's no way this is going to be cheap. They're not cheap. And they're a really great option for huge brands, like really big household names often use influencer marketing agencies. But for small to medium-sized businesses, a lot of the time it's not the right time to outsource that task just yet. And instead you want to focus on using a platform like Modash to help you find the best influencers and really manage those campaigns yourself. Last but certainly not least, there is another way for you to find influencers and creators for your brand that people rarely talk about. And that is to do a bit of snooping on your competitors, guys. That's right. Get out that magnifying glass and let's do some snooping. Now, there are a few caveats that we need to talk about here, right? Because essentially what I'm saying is you can go on your competitors' social media channels and look at the creators and influencers who they work with and potentially pinch them, okay? Now, the caveats I need to flag here is if a creator or an influencer is already working with one of your competitors, there is a big chance that they have signed a contract, which means they can't also work with you for a set period of time. This is not the end of the world if this is the case. It just means that you might need to wait a while before you can actually go ahead and work with that creator. Another thing to flag though is you need to make sure that whichever creators or influencers you're working with, they actually really like your brand. So if they actively promote a competitor brand, there's a chance that their audience won't believe that they also like your brand too. They're probably going to believe that they are loyal to this other brand, especially if they've worked with them for years and years. Now, with those caveats in mind, there's still a way that you can do some snooping that's going to massively help you find the best creators for you. For example, at the start of the video, I spoke about this really great feature on Instagram, which allows you to see similar accounts to the one that you're currently looking at. So let's say you're doing some snooping on your competitors' social media accounts and you see that they work with this one creator all the time. You can go on that creator's account and you don't have to try and get that creator to work with you. Instead, you can see similar accounts that Instagram recommends to you and maybe you work with those creators, right? Because now you know that those creators are actually similar and normally have similar audiences to the creator who's working with your competitor. Also, a bit of snooping, a bit of competitor analysis never hurt anyone, right? It helps you get to grips with the different creators and influencers who are really thriving within that space and who have real credibility within that area, right? That's never going to hurt you. It's always good to just keep your ear to the ground and understand who's working with who and what's going on in your industry. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you feel like hanging around, I recommend watching this video. It's all about my #1 tactic for increasing your sales on Instagram. So it's a must watch for anyone watching this video. Also, if you're really serious about influencer and creator marketing, I really recommend checking out Modash. I have got a link in my description. I really think it's going to be a game-changing tool for your marketing strategy. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I can't wait to see you in my next video.